Go. So Juliet will introduce us.
Okay.
Welcome everyone to Witch Bitch, where we talk the real tea. And today is a very beautiful day because we have Anne Marie on the show. We're super excited, and um, I'm just so ready for this conversation. I've kind of named it the spiritual mind because honestly, I didn't really know much about you, Anne Marie, and this is just kind of the name that came to my mind. I think the first picture I saw of you was you holding like a tarot card or an oracle card, and so I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
um, let's just call it the spiritual mind. It just is what came to me.
Nice.
So,
You might not know, but I know Anne Marie because we went to school together.
We went to school together.
yeah, yes, yes. Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we know each other from when we were really young, don't we?
yeah, I know. And we're really still the same.
I know. But I don't think people really change, do they? They don't change
Yeah,
very much.
yeah.
I mean, we get
Because
older and we get more responsibility, but we're essentially the same people.
I remember in about year 12 having these kind of philosophical discussions with you
Yeah,
and
that's
just
so funny. We were talking about the D&Ms I used to have yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, because I used to have D&Ms with people.
Yeah,
We were
yeah.
talking about that yesterday.
yeah,
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 I
wow.
yeah,
really enjoyed deep conversations even back then.
yeah. Me
Yeah,
too. I really love it. I just, you know, I have a philosophical mind, I think, and I
mm,
just enjoy just, I don't know, exploring, possibilities. Like
yeah,
that really excites me.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, Anne-Marie, this is the first time you're on our show,
Yeah.
so you get the initiation question.
So I don't really know what to expect. I
It's
quickly
fine.
listened. Yeah, I quickly listened last night to one of your previous ones, and I was so tired. I think I got the first 5 minutes. And I went, all right, I kind of know what I'm gonna be
Yeah,
asked.
the first 5 minutes I think sets us up for the
Okay.
rest of the time
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
So we ask all our new guests about your awakening story, and I know
Mm.
yours because we've spoken about it. I've told you
Yeah.
mine, and you've told me yours. And yours is really, really interesting because you had some psychic stuff going on for you, didn't you? You had a
Yeah. Yeah.
dream, and things kind of like dripped into your
Yeah.
consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a long process.
Mm.
It's really how do you what, how do you describe awaken as well?
Yes,
Because
it's
I think
personal
that's,
for each of us.
yeah. Like, is it being awake to the spiritual world and this other dimension that we know exists parallel to the dimension we operate in?
Mm.
And to me, that's as plain as day.
Yeah.
Um, um, and then there's also the awakening to kind of the evil stuff and the kind of stuff we see in this 3D world. Um, that to me is kind of like it's a little bit different, but they kind of everything's so interconnected.
Mm.
Um, everything's so interconnected. Yeah, it's just they are, I suppose, the same, aren't they? Um,
Yeah, I think everything's
yeah,
kind of the same, but it has its own sort of level.
yeah, and there's so many levels to it. It's a bit like meditating or you doing yoga. You talk about your practice because you are practicing. You never actually there. You're just constantly practicing because you're constantly refining.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, the journey is similar in that you're constantly learning and growing. You never become the most awoken because you know what I mean. It's just this sort of
Yeah.
journey. Um,
Yeah, we were also having a conversation about the spiral,
yes.
how life is pretty much a spiral. and we're always coming back around in the spiral to our old belief systems, to ways that we operate in the world and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
we're constantly coming back around to those things, but we're looking at them from a different perspective because we're changing, we're constantly growing as people.
Yeah, and there's actually a, what do you call it, like a model that is it's called the spiral, because it's about like your whether you call it your ascension, your enlightenment. You spiral and you elevate and you go through
Mm,
these phases,
that's
um,
right.
which is really interesting. And also because, like, depending where you work and in the environment you're in, you kind of have to move up and down. um,
Yes.
yeah.
It's not
Yeah,
a
so
straight
my
line.
it's not linear, no.
No.
um, so yeah, my awakening has been a journey, and for like forever, stuff has come through in my dreams, and when I would sleep, I tele travel, or what do you travel?
Yes.
um, I travel around. And when I was younger, um, I used to go to the same place, which was my primary school in the playground.
Right.
I used to go there all the time, and sometimes I would have this repetitive um, dream that I was playing, get this, table tennis with the $10 million man.
Oh, really?
This dream I would have. Anyway, a little bit of bizarre there, but yeah, and the thing is that with the dreams, when I ignore them, like, they're guiding me, they're telling me truth, and for a
Mm,
very long time, probably in my, you know, late teens, early 20s, I wasn't really listening to it. I just kept, oh no, it's just nothing. And um, in one of my travels, I traveled inside my kitchen to the top. I was traveling around, like, up in the sort of the kitchen, floating around, and there was something there. Day, I went and had a look in that spot that I was, like, traveling around, and there was a piece of paper with a phone number and a woman's name, and that's how I found out my husband at the time was cheating, because I found this piece of paper while I was teleporting, and it was on top of the um, kitchen
the cupboard.
cabinet. Yeah, yeah. But like, it's.
Juliet's made a mistake.
Um, we're using a new streaming software,
Oh yeah.
and um, I haven't realized. I'm pretty sure we're live
Let's
on
just record
YouTube,
it. Let's just record it and
and
put it, upload it.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh,
All
Yeah,
right.
so it's recording, but it's not going live to Facebook. It's going live to
Yeah,
YouTube. But
I
we'll put the recording up after.
yeah, because
uh-huh.
I'm getting used to
Yeah,
this live streaming service. It doesn't work the same as the ones we previously used, and I actually have to manually start it through Facebook
yeah. But it's
instead of
okay. It's
starting it
recording,
here.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's recording.
Yeah, so we can upload the recording. So
Yeah.
that's all
Oh,
right.
okay. All right.
Anyway,
I don't have to start again.
this that aside, that story you were telling us, right? When you told me that story privately between you and me, I resonated with that so deeply because I've had dreams where I've dreamt something in the dream world, and then when I've woken up, it's given me an insight into something, and I've gone and
Yeah.
looked,
Yeah.
or I've spoken to a person, or it's somehow triggered something in me that's made me realize something in the 3D.
Yeah, yeah.
and
It's amazing,
changed it.
isn't it?
Yeah, and changed the trajectory of where I was going at the time.
Wow.
So that insight that you got, and you checked your kitchen cupboard
Yeah.
in a spot where you couldn't see,
No, because it's too high.
it was too high up,
Yeah.
but you knew that there was something there that you needed to see.
Yeah, yeah. And
Mm.
it's happened so many times. Like, particular incident that is so funny. I had a dream, and it's like it tells me to do something. And
Yeah,
like
right.
I said, life wasn't going so great back with the early 20s because I wasn't listening to it. And then and then I started listening and things started to get on track. And it's to me, a real lesson that this stuff that comes through in the dreams, it's always on. Like, it's always 100% accurate. So I've got to listen to it and I've got to use it as guidance.
Yeah.
Um, but there was a funny incident where I had a dream, and it's like it tells me stuff. So it's like this download, and it said, there's something in the car, it's behind the driver, it's on the floor, and you've got to go out and find it. And if you come out, there's a clue inside. And so I went
What
to the
was
car.
it?
This is weird. So I sort of, like, and it was dark, and I kind of believe it. There was something there, and it was a camera case, just a little camera. And I'm like, oh, where did this come from? Like, who would have dropped this? Like,
Mm.
a lift to. And then I go, oh, it said it. And I looked, and it had film in it. So I got the test, and it turned out to be an Italian couple that were in my suburb, and they're at the local shops, and they didn't know how to get home, and I just said, hop in the car and I'll drive you home. So then, because they didn't want me knowing where they lived, I had to try to find them, because I
Yeah,
now had
right.
the camera and their photos. So yeah, just went back to the shop. And but there have been so many incidences like that. And one other one that really stands out is there were some photos that were missing, and um, they belonged to someone that had died. And so this message came through that I had to find these photos. I'm like, I don't even know where to start to find these. So anyway, I sort of contacted a few people, and then 10 years later, almost to the day, I found the photos. Someone found them, sent them through. Um, and when I find the photos, and I asked a particular person, how the hell do you know about this? And I said, what do you mean? They go, you cannot possibly know about this. And yeah, I don't know, it just came in a dream, and I'm just doing what I'm told. So 10 years to the
Just
day,
following
I
orders.
found, I found them. And
Wow. And whose photos were they?
they were my dad's photos.
Wow.
Um, and
So they were
yeah,
significant to your family.
they were very significant. And so it was just, the whole thing was so bizarre. And the day I got them was the day my mum died. And I said to her,
Wow.
Mum, I got them. I found them. And I said, tell Dad I found them. And she was
Wow.
dying, and I just felt like it was unfinished business.
Mm.
Um, and he was sending the message for me to find it, and she was going back that day, and so she sent the message back to him.
Wow, that's incredible. And that came to you in a dream that you needed to
Yeah,
find these
it's
photos.
very detailed.
Goodness
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
You are definitely connected.
Yeah.
I have to say that a lot of stuff comes, it's changed the way my intuition works, but at the start it was all coming through in my dreams. And in fact, I one day had someone say, there is a blockage that you are getting these messages in your sleep and not in the day. And I remember you need to do more work because there's a reason why. And I reflected on that for quite a while, just thinking that there's what's that block?
Yeah, right.
Um, and so, and that was sort of before that event. Um, so about 7, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, it was a really stressful time. My mum was very, very sick with cancer and in hospital, and she was dying. And my husband at the time had a brain hemorrhage and a brain clot, and
Right.
they were both in intensive care hospital at the same time for about a month. And so, I'm juggling the house, juggling everything, juggling the kids, and, time. So that was when I really started picking up meditation just to manage the stress. And um, the stress, I just needed to just have time for me,
Mm.
and yeah. And so the more and more I did the meditation, and then my meditation teacher sort of teaching me the cards, practicing for years together, and doing thousands of people, I find that the stuff that comes through in the sleeping can come through now in the day. And I think it was meditation that was the kind of the
Yeah, right.
really deep meditation. And yeah.
That was going to be my question. Like, what practice did you adopt to bring it through and to
Yeah.
get rid of that block? And it was, you answered my question without me even
Well, I
having
think
to
it's the
ask.
meditation, but it's also a lot of sort of self work and looking at the ego, looking at the shadows. We all have
Mm.
duality, accepting that there is a dark and a light side in all of us, um, and yeah, just breath work. I'm doing a lot of breath work at the moment, Kundalini. So really, that all supports the releasing of the body. And
Mm.
yeah, and just is helping. And I think more and more I progress down this road, I'm learning more. So, you know, removing fluoride from the diet, the water, being careful what I put on my face, particularly around my pineal gland,
Mm.
putting lavender oil on the pineal gland, with the heart to try to activate the pineal gland. So that then brings another layer of kind of you know intuition and knowing.
Yeah,
It's like the more I sort of work on that, I can see lies. It's like a radar, and I'm
right. So
sort
what do you
of
see when you see the light? How do you know? Like, what's the indication for you?
it's just intuitive. Like I
It's a
know something's
feeling.
not right. Yeah,
Yeah.
like think the radar's just I'm just a little bit more sensitive to it. If I'm being
Mm.
lied to, I kind of can, and I think also, many subtle things when we talk to people,
Yeah.
whether it's the face and how we talk, there's many subtle things that we're picking up, lots of
Mm.
information, uh, and I think with the pineal gland and the third eye, it's like sixth sense, and that unspoken. It, yeah,
Yeah, I think that's what the spiritual mind is really.
Mm,
It's a broader intelligence of like this extra sense that can basically cover all your other senses.
yeah,
I think your intuition is like it can be hearing, it can be feeling, it can be it's like a knowing. This extra sense, I would like to call it knowing. I think.
yeah,
yeah,
Um, because it's just such a unique feeling and it's one that you can't describe, but you know what it means. Usually, I mean, sometimes you don't, but usually,
yeah.
you
You know,
know
it's
what
a
it means.
constant practice. You know, I'm still trying to still learn my intuition and how it works, and it is a practice. Yeah, it's
mm,
not something we've nailed by all means. I mean, I do angel card readings, but doesn't mean like it talking to me. I just think it's, you know, we're still in the 3D, we're transitioning, and it's getting clearer, and we're starting to understand ourselves and these special talents that we have. I think that we all have this intuitive muscle, but we've just not been taught how to use it and how to fine tune it. And it has taken me years, you know, and will continue to take me years and years to refine and understand it. Um,
yeah.
it's really interesting because I do believe that in the business world, the business world was open to using the intuition as a business tool. It's just that we're, you know, we're sort of discouraged that you know, it's all
Yeah.
um, so I I did an MBA, and more because I wanted to do it, I wanted to learn, and it just seemed to align with the things I wanted to learn at the time. And so what would happen was that in the lead up to doing assignments, I would just, and just
Mm,
when I'd sleep on it, I just, the that came through during, um, I'd collate the stuff, and I would just go to sleep and I would write it in my sleep. And when I would wake up, I'd just type it out exactly as how it was all written in my head, and I'd hand it in and I get an HD. And I just sort of couldn't help but think that I'm collecting a different way, like leaping and seeing what came through, and just had that kind of what is it that I want to talk about. And you've got to remember the subjects I chose were about self management, because my and the philosophy of the university was that you can't manage others unless you can manage your own behavior, emotions. So I chose to do a lot of subjects about the ego, that were about the inner child, the Gurdjieff and Gestalt's. Yeah, so I think that kind of open and Jung. So yeah, it was a lot of fun actually, because it just made uni really fun and interesting. I was learning stuff I wanted to learn, and it was all just coming in.
yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know you could study that stuff at uni, the
Yeah.
self-management and
So in your like advanced, if you can do like advanced management, and there are a few subjects where it touched. It was more about personal development, but if you
mm,
expanded that and kind of went out on the parameters, you kind of could include it, and it didn't look too woo woo.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're saying that if businesses adopted more of that, that sort of the I don't want to say woo woo because it's not really woo woo,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it? Like
It's
there
not
is
woo
a bit
woo,
of a
but
mix.
it's just sort of like unlearning what we're being programmed to think about business and
Yeah.
relearning that it can be done a different way. You've got to remember that, businesses right now, there's so much data and information coming at like the CEOs.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell do they filter through all this information? And that's where I think the intuition has a role to kind of collect that information and sort of guide. Yeah,
Yeah,
when
right.
when it is not possible to actually analyze all the information.
Yeah, so similar to what you've done, where you were writing your essays in your sleep and things like that, that
Mm.
they could possibly be processing information in their sleep too.
Yeah, yeah,
They could create a practice in their life,
Mm.
and that would intuitively tune them into the goals that they wanted to achieve, or
yeah.
what direction they wanted to take their business in. I love that. I
Yeah.
absolutely, that idea is amazing. I really would love to see more of that
Mm.
happening in the business world.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
I think we can learn to create like ease for ourselves in such abundance, like how you
Mm,
were saying you would sleep and what would come to you, like the essay or whatever would come to you, and then you would go out and write it. And I
Yeah,
think a lot of people could do that if they just believed that they could, and
mm,
it would happen in their own way. Maybe they don't, fall asleep and it comes. Maybe it's something else, but it's
mm.
possible for everyone, and it would be a really exciting thing to like have the spiritual mind tell you and guide you to do your essays, and seeing
Yeah,
what score you get, because maybe, like, who knows, maybe you might get a horrible score because the school just doesn't understand what you're trying to say, or
mm.
maybe
yeah,
you get like a perfect score, or like really high score, because it's so spot on with
Yeah,
the exam topic and stuff. Like, you never know. You have to I would love to, like, in school, if I had this, it would feel like a superpower.
mm.
Like falling asleep and then getting the essay through my sleep and then waking up and writing it down. That would be such a superpower. Like, the
yeah,
spiritual mind is a superpower.
Yeah,
It's
100%.
it's it's incredible.
It's just like how you downloaded the name of this
yeah.
Yeah,
this
That's
interview.
it,
Like,
isn't
you
yeah,
intuitively felt into it because you didn't know a lot about Anne-Marie. You
yeah.
did the exact same thing. So you were downloading into her
it? I love
before
it.
before the interview.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
And
I
I
just
do think, I do think like our ego can get in the way and tell us, oh, it's just all make believe stuff. But if you just release and like surrender to it, it just sort of comes.
yeah.
Um, but something that I had worked out during that time was that about 5 minutes into my sleep, and then 5 minutes coming out of my sleep, that was when I was able to tap into this unconscious mind. Um, and it was kind of, obviously we're moving into the theta or the beta phase of the sleep. And that was when I could consciously sort of, I was sleeping, but I was sort of conscious, and I sort of was able to access on both sides of the sleep. And that was how I used to do it regularly. It used to solve all my problems. So if I had a problem, I just kind of go into that space in my dream and get sort of, solutions.
Mm,
Wow, that's amazing. Such an easy way to connect,
Yeah,
because the brain is, like you said, it's going into those waves,
yeah,
theta and beta, and then delta or whatever it is, alpha
yeah,
and all that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So, it's to me, it's like the veil is very thin in
mm.
those moments.
Yeah, I
yeah,
think I think also seeing the diversity of the spiritual mind, because it's not just
Mm,
downloading messages, it's not just, receiving things and that intuition. I think it can also be about power. Like, when I think of the spiritual mind, I also think a lot of Wim Hof, the guy who, like, does all the ice
and the
baths
breathing.
and the breath
Mm,
work. and he's like also known as Iceman, and he like spent he's like literally baffled scientists. There was this one time where he and one of his like I don't want to say students because that sounds kind of like culty, but one of his like people that he trains,
Yeah.
they both went into like a science lab and they got this like influenza injected into
Oh,
them,
yeah, I
and
remember this.
it was like a kind of influenza that they could easily like counter with another, like they could heal them, like it
But
wasn't.
they put the germs in there.
Yeah, but they put the germs, so they injected them with like influenza, and Wim Hof and the trainee, or his student, um, wanted to see if they could like fight the disease if they meditated and like
Right.
breathed, and they
Yeah.
did. Their
Wow.
symptoms were so much lower. They were not
They
like
controlled it with their
they
mind.
controlled it.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah, in terms of recording, like it was just like everything was so much lower, and they were totally fine when they shouldn't have been really. And
Wow.
yeah, the scientists were like completely shocked.
Yeah.
And he's Wim Hof has also like ran through the desert without water.
Mm.
He has like he's climbed up mountains in his underwear. I think he climbed Mount Everest in his underwear.
My goodness.
He climbed Mount Everest just in a pair of shorts. Like
Wow.
absolutely insane things that should just absolutely kill you, right? Like climbing to the top of Everest in nothing but a pair of like little board shorts is insane.
But we don't recommend people do it.
No, but it just shows.
He went through a lot
No,
of
do not
training.
do that, people. But it just shows like
It does.
what you are powerful, like what you're capable of, and the power that we hold as humans, and the power that our body holds. The spiritual mind is like it's so incredible when you tap into it. There's it's like you can feel fear and not be scared of yeah, and not really be scared. Like you're
Mm.
just feeling fear and that's it. Um, I I remember I've grown up with a huge fear of the dentist for my whole life. Like honestly, since when I was like maybe 5, I've been petrified of the dentist. And it wasn't until I woke up and started doing the work, doing the shadow work, seeing the ego and, my shadow and my fear. And it wasn't until then that I started seeing my fear, and it didn't affect me as much.
Yeah,
And
because
then,
we want to move out of fear. Fear is a very low vibrating, it keeps us at a lower vibration.
yeah,
So I mean, we see it playing out on the television, and even consuming alcohol, it all lowers our vibration, and it keeps us in the 3D. So I agree. Fear is yeah, an emotion that is being kind of inflicted on us
Mm.
as
yes,
social engineering, from a social engineering perspective, um, and for us to ascend and to continue raising our vibration, we need to move out of fear, like I said, and move into love and forgiveness and operating from the heart.
Yeah.
So that must be really hard. Must have been a very hard time. The fear of the dentist, because at some point you've got to face that fear. Hey.
yeah, I did. In 2020, like with the click of the finger on the dot during New Year's Eve, I had like some really intense pain, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I tried. Oh, sorry, I didn't swear. Facebook, I didn't swear. um, I felt this really intense pain, and I didn't know like really what it was. And because my fear was so strong at that time, I just tried my best to ignore it.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where like I literally couldn't ignore it, and I had to go to the dentist because it was so painful. And yeah, I just it just scared me so much.
Sorry, it's the dog. He wants to
Listening
sit
to
on
your
my lap.
fear.
Hang on one sec.
Yeah. So cute.
He wants to be on camera.
Yeah. He's a sassy dog. Sassy queen.
Sorry, I didn't mean to disappear.
It's
It's
all
just a
No.
right.
meow.
Oh,
He has a
hello.
little bark at me before, he wants to be held and he wants to be
Yeah.
part of it, but he
Yeah.
has a little bark and I've got to go get him. So
Wow,
he'll
that's
be
adorable.
my
What's his name?
co-pilot. And Max.
Max. Hey, Max.
So
Oh,
cute.
that's love. Look at
I
Yeah.
that.
So gorgeous.
know. Have you ever realized that dog backwards is God?
Yeah,
Oh,
I have.
yeah.
I have. But I didn't think much about it, but that's actually kind of true.
I know.
Yeah.
It's
Why didn't
really
I ever
funny.
notice that before?
I know. And you know what? Like, because sometimes I go, like, are we born on this planet? We're born on this planet to be free, and we pay from the minute we're born. We pay for everything. We pay for our food, our homes, our clothes, to everything, like to even to register a birth certificate, like all of
Mm,
it. We can't park anywhere. We've got to pay for parking, like everything we pay for.
yeah.
And here's the dog, and I go, maybe I'm its servant. Like he doesn't have to pay rent. He just he just operates from love. He gets fed. Like
Yeah,
he
I
doesn't
often think
need
that too.
clothes.
Yeah, I
So
think that too.
like I kind of go, this is how we're meant to be.
Yeah, so true.
On like a 5D, like we're actually meant to be like the dog, just living the dream.
Yeah,
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, free as a bird.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
getting
right now I kind of go, oh, I'm his servant actually. He's higher than me. He is the god.
yeah. That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
And now the cat's doing
And now the cat.
it.
Well, I want to come on the show because, like, when I do meditations online or readings online, this is the thing. Like, I'll do card readings, and they all want to come and say hello. Um,
Yes.
I did a reading the other day, and oh yeah, it's like there was the dog, the cat, they all were like, want to be part of it.
They can feel the vibration. They
Yeah,
feel the
yeah,
high vibe.
definitely.
Yeah,
And
for
even in
sure.
meditation, they really make an appearance. The cats, particularly. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So yeah. So I do sort of online meditations, and I'm doing a lot of the card reading in person, but also um, online. And at first, because of COVID, I actually didn't think it would work online. I just thought, how am I going to pick up energy
Mm,
doing this online? Um, and I was surprised that stuff it was pretty much the same. It's still, we're dealing with an energy field. Um, yeah, and just sort of calibrating. So I call it calibrating. It's where I kind of sync with the person I'm reading,
mm.
and so I could feel that energy of calibrating, and the stuff, the random, validations, they come through just as they normally would. Yeah.
Yeah, I know people who do energy work from other countries
Mm.
online. They
Yeah.
they they hold their um, workshops online, and they can um, project the energy across the planet. Like
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
so
Yeah, I
amazing.
have a beautiful client in Canada, and yeah, it's I can pick up the energy, and yeah, so it's so the card reading I've been doing for I know the last 8 years or so, um, and yeah, and the messaging and the way it works has sort of how the messaging comes through has also evolved over time. But lots of validations, nearly every reading has some sort of random validation where I'll ask, uh, I did one the other day and I said, sorry, but this, I keep getting licorice. Like, I don't really understand it, but I keep getting licorice. And then she explained that the fertility stuff that she is doing with women, all the products have licorice in them.
Right.
And I was like, right, okay. There's so many beautiful validations along the way. Um, so when I do a reading, um, I get the information in many different ways, and that has also evolved. So I get like a download of information. Sometimes I hear things, um, like a snippet. I see things like a saying explaining it to someone the other day. It's almost like a portal. I just
Yeah,
see
right.
this kind of image, and it's here. It's on my right side. Um, and then sometimes, and it, again, it's through just the practice. I get these sensations in my body sometimes. Um, and so what I had worked out was that I, I said to, I was doing someone and I said, oh my God, my shoulder's really sore. And all of a sudden, and it just came on me suddenly, and I just said to her, and kind of then going, all right, when I do a reading, this is not my stuff, this is their stuff, and I
Yeah.
have to, and I deliver it to them and I share it. And I said, oh, I've got this pain, and I said, oh, do you have a really sore shoulder here, and it's this muscle here? And I said, on the left side, and she said, I do, but it's on the right side. And that was when I worked out it was a mirror.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. Um, and then there I've seen like inside people's houses, or I've seen like I remember seeing this cabinet. It was a glass cabinet with maybe 5 shelves, and it had all these big crystals. And I just explained what I'd seen. I didn't really understand it, and she said, yeah, that's in my parents' house. And I said, it feels like these crystals are your siblings. Like, is it really old? And she said, yeah, yeah, it's been there since day dot. Um, I also read jewelry. So I did one reading where I said to her, I'm just seeing again this image, and I said, it's like there's something about like the angle, and I said there's just seems to be an issue about this angle, and I said, and I can see bikes underneath. And she goes, oh yeah, we're having a dispute with our neighbour, and it's over the angle of our two garages and how they meet.
Right.
So sometimes the information comes through and I don't really understand it. So I just have to explain it and keep explaining it until I kind there's, that's getting that information across.
Yeah. And then it twigs in them what you're talking about
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's so specific to their life.
yeah.
Amazing.
And then I've done some readings where like people that have passed have come through. Um, I had seen a car accident when I saw this vision of a car that had fallen off a cliff,
Wow.
and I could almost tell you where it was. It was how clear it was, and the bend in the road, and the car had gone off the cliff and had landed on its roof. And I had, it was a difficult reading because um, you don't know who it's relating to or if it's right or wrong, or you're just sort
Mm.
of delivering what's coming through. And so I said, I don't mean to upset or pry. Um, but this is the image that I'm seeing right now. And she said, yes, that's my son. That's exactly how he died.
Wow.
And I said to her, there really doesn't feel like any sadness. Like there's a real calm with it. Like there's nothing kind of attached that would tell me that there's sadness or. And she said, yeah, we're all good. We're all kind of, accepted and moved on, and we've all come to peace with it. So it was just really a really nice reading to do.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And then other times when I do readings, my soul plex is like a grid, maybe 6 by 6 or 4 by 4 or something. And I will get like, I don't know, sometimes I don't even know how to explain it. I get this like energy sit in a particular part of the grid, and that tells me that I have to tell a story about something in particular, like a
Wow.
relationship dynamic. It's usually got to do with relationships, and it's got to do with, yeah, different relationship dynamics where it's sitting in my solar plexus like a grid. It's really hard to explain,
So is
but
that a visual or a feeling in your solar
it's
plexus?
a kind of like an energy. It's not a visual, but I think there's an element of download that's with that.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and it's kind of like where the energy's sitting in the solar plex in the grid. Yeah. So I'm not going
Far
to
out. That's so
explain it.
specific.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and
Wow.
something probably really intuitive to you, like that
Yeah.
happening, that system that you've got going is probably how
Yeah.
you really interpret and understand information coming through.
Because sometimes then, the story I've got to tell them may be a story of mine that is similar kind of emotion, whether it's a issue with a sibling or whether it's an issue at work. Um, yeah,
Right.
that's
So you'll get the information downloaded into you about something that's happened in your life that you relay to the person that they can relate to. Is that what you're saying?
um,
So if you've had an
it's
issue with your sibling, that will come through and then you relate it to them.
um, it's kind of like, just say there's jealousy at work.
Yeah.
I kind of get this download that there's jealousy, and
Yeah,
I'll get
right.
a download that there is, um, it's at work and what it could be about. So then I
Yeah,
tell a
right.
story about, it could be a story about when it could have happened to me, not specifically, but just kind of saying sometimes, people get jealous of us and it's not because of anything you do, it's just, we just do it and it looks so natural that they get jealous of it. And just so
Yeah.
that understand that kind of the reason why someone might be jealous.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's brilliant. Because not only are you helping them to feel more comfortable about what you're telling them, you're showing them that they're not alone because it's,
Mm.
that because you're relating that
Yeah.
to yourself in your own life.
Mm.
And
Yeah, that's brilliant.
I find that, but when I do the readings, there's never anything negative that comes through. It's always about how to help or support someone. It might be a health thing that they might want to take up that will help them that they need. Like sometimes I'll pick up, oh, they've got to do acupuncture or they've got to do some kinesiology, or and quite often the person will say, oh, I've been thinking about that. And so it's just a validation to continue exploring it.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it's usually always positive about supporting someone's journey. Um, I remember once doing one, and it kind of indicated that, and this was in the early days, where everything that comes through I give. You're like, I hand over because it's not mine, it's theirs. So everything that comes through I hand over, and over the years, kind of learning um, delivering it in a constructive way,
Mm.
not to tamper with it at all, but how it comes through is constructive anyway. And looking at both sides of the coin, being, seeing the negative and the positive, but more from a guiding perspective.
Yeah.
But then I remember doing one and it coming out that she was going to get divorced. And I remember thinking, oh, I don't know how to deliver this. And it was really the kind of, in the early days, really kind of unsure about when something like that comes through. And again,
Mm.
I have to be honest, but it can be in the delivery. So, what I could see also was that she was already, she knew
Mm.
that was on its way, and she was doing everything. I could see that she was in my vision that she was doing everything to become independent. So it was kind of like it was just the progressive next step. So my sort of advice, what I had said to her was, there's potentially a relationship breakdown, but you know that already, and that you're taking the steps and the right steps to be independent, and you're ready, and what you're doing is exactly what you need to do to set yourself up for independence. And that was sort of, yeah. But it can be tricky. I remember one reading doing with a woman, and a child came through that had passed over, and they were only about 5, and the child was almost saying to me, I sit in the car with mum, but she doesn't talk to me. She thinks I'm not here.
Right.
And so I was saying to this woman, there is a 5-year-old child that is sitting next to you in the car. She drives with you to work, but she wants you to talk to her. And she wants you to have conversations with her. And she's here, and she wants you to talk, um, and to change the way you think of her being dead, that she's still here.
Yeah, right.
Um, and by the end of it, I was crying. She was crying, and she said, "Yeah, that's my daughter." And it was very difficult because it was one of the first times that I'd sort of had one of those
Mm.
experiences, and it was just, yeah, quite heavy. And emotionally, I could really connect with her as a mother. Um, yeah, so it was hard, and I suppose that's where I've learned that I have to ground afterwards and really make sure I ground afterwards and just release, let go of that energy. Yeah, because
That
it's
would have
not
been
right.
such a gift for that mother too, though, to know that her child was around. Like that would have been a massive gift.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it was emotional, and it
it
would
was
have been
very
difficult for
emotional. Yeah,
you to, you know, to in. But that's why she was there. Like she was there for things like that. She was getting
yeah,
a reading from you,
yeah,
and so those if those things are coming up and you're the custodian of the information and you're giving it to the person, of course being part of that emotion, being there witnessing her feelings and witnessing her sorrow is difficult, but it takes a lot of compassion and a lot
yeah.
of understanding and a lot of patience, I think.
Mm.
Like you have to cultivate that over years and years and years of
Yeah,
practice.
Yeah.
yeah. It's something that I've had to cultivate. Yeah,
Mm.
just the delivery, so it is done from the heart. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, that was a lot. Like
Yes.
a really huge stuff.
Yeah, you really took us on a journey.
Oh, I hope I didn't sabotage your.
No, not at
you know,
all.
take it by the horns and
No, not at
oh
all.
no.
No, it was brilliant because I've often wondered, because we all have psychic abilities in different ways,
Yeah.
and I've always wondered about the spiritual mind of an intuitive, somebody who can deliver, information from the other side to people and who are connected. So you've answered a lot of questions because I feel like you put us in your shoes. It was really, it was so insightful.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Oh, thank
So,
you.
Anne-Marie, will you come back on the show again
Yeah,
with us?
yeah, I'd love to come back onto the show. There's so much more that I can, yeah, just share,
Yeah,
even, even, my awakening to kind of the evil that's also going on,
yeah.
and really being awake to that duality in society,
Mm,
and that journey was quite, it was, you have your dark days because you see what's going on, and just, with all the COVID stuff,
mm,
having, because I think I was a business analyst, I used to interview everyone in organisations, and I would make sure that I interviewed people from the CEO right down to, the tea lady, just to
yeah,
get a
right.
full cross section perspective. And it was always the people that were considered at the lower ranks of the organisation that had the most insight,
Yeah,
and they were being ignored, and there was often a reason, and I would get a lot of insight that way. And I suppose when COVID came, I was a little bit the same, going, why are we only seeing one side of the story? There's so many other sides that are not
Yeah.
being talked about. And same with the Ukraine Russian war. Why are we only
yes.
hearing one side of that?
Mm,
Um, it takes two people to tango, but we're not hearing on the
yeah.
mainstream media anything more.
So
Um,
maybe we could delve deeper into that.
yeah,
Yeah.
As a
yeah,
business analyst, it would be very interesting to get your take, like the
yeah,
way your brain works,
yeah. It's interesting because I actually did a kind of thesis when I did corporations law, and I was the only person in my class that did mine on um, corporate fraud,
Right.
and um, and exploring why do CEOs that make the biggest fuck up get the biggest payout? Like why?
Yes. Yes.
And so on that journey, it was really interesting because the pharmaceuticals that were delivering the vaccine were actually the worst offenders.
Mm,
So to me, they were big warning signs. So that's
Yeah, I
kind of
heard.
my other awakening journey.
yes. Yeah.
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 Okay, well, let's save it for next time, shall we?
Let's
Yes.
do that.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So I've really enjoyed today, and
Yeah, we have to.
Maxie is half asleep. He's really enjoyed it too, I think.
All right. Oh, Maxie, you're so beautiful.
He's
All right,
very
so we're going to leave it there and
yeah, leave
I'll
it.
contact you and we'll make another time that we can talk.
Sounds great. Thank you
All
for
right.
having me. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for coming
It's
on and
really
thanks for chatting with
Thank
us.
you, everyone.
Mwah. See you. Bye, everyone.